The LA wildfires are now expected to be the most expensive disaster in U.S. history, with over $150 billion in damages estimated. Police have now allegedly arrested, or I should say they've arrested alleged arsonists, 2 of them. However, the news stories say that these guys were caught in the act. So it does look like some of these fires were arson. As for the big ones, we don't know for sure. It is believed that the principal fire, the Palisades fire, may have been embers burning from a New Year's celebration that never got put out, but we don't know for sure. So as of right now, you've got I think it's the Hearst, Eaton, and Palisades fires. They're still out of control. The Santa Ana winds are picking up. The death toll is, I believe, around 25, and 74 people have been arrested. There are looters. There are people dressing up like firefighters to go and loot these properties, flying drones over the properties. It's a massively dark day, my friends. And then on top of it all, you got this big scandal. Talked about this at 4 p.m. over on youtube.com/Timcast, the ActBlue scandal, where Democrats are routing charitable donations for wildfire relief through a Democrat PAC where they take 4% off the top. Massive, massive scandal. I mean, this is just awful stuff. So we'll talk about that. And then there's some other news. TikTok might be sold to Elon Musk. I don't know how true that is, but that's what the reporting says. Maybe Elon buys TikTok and saves the platform. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and buy CastBrew coffee. If you look for it, we don't have it featured on the front page just yet, but I actually didn't know. Focus with Mr. Bocus espresso roast is now available. And look how beautiful that bag is for Mr. Bocus. We retired the Mr. Bocus Pumpkin Spice experience. It's still available if you're in the Cast Brew Coffee Club, but Focus with Mr. Bocus. Dark roast espresso. It's available. And let's do this. We talked about Ian's graphene dream the other day. How much has he sold? Holy crap. In a week and a half, Ian has sold 1,100 bags of his graphene dream. I don't know why you guys love that Ian coffee so much, but you're buying it like crazy, so I'll take it. But don't forget to also go to boonieshq.com and pick up your 28th Amendment skateboard. Look at that doodle of the chicken. Tell me that is not the greatest chicken doodle ever made. It's beautiful. And the 20th Amendment is that chickens, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep, bear, and breed chickens shall not be infringed. And that's over at Boonies HQ. But of course, become a member by going to timcast.com and clicking join us. Because as a member, you make all this possible. If you like the work we do, if you think this show is good, and you want to make sure this show continues to exist, then become a member by going to timcast.com, and you can get access to our Discord server, where you can hang out with like-minded individuals, and you can watch the members-only uncensored show that is coming up tonight at 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it. So smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Jack Posobiec.
What's going on, Tim? Do you realize that in just 1 week's time, you'll be sitting here behind the microphone, Timcast IRL, and Donald J. Trump will be the president of the United States? You hear that, libs? You have less than 7 days left.
We'll be in D.C., actually.
Well, it's still the Timcast IRL microphone.
That's right.
It's wherever Tim is, because Tim is Tim. By the way,
we're going to be there.
Here's something I had to think about that I when you were mentioning the 28th Amendment, right? So, are you familiar with, and it's the right to bear and breed chickens, right? Are you familiar with the Schechter poultry case?
No.
So, FDR's, it's just so funny that this came up, that FDR's entire National Recovery Act and the National Recovery Agency, the original NRA, this was like the biggest, most expansive form of government. It was basically this agency he put together during the New Deal to like take over every single business in the country.
And they banned chickens?
Well, they had put these regulations in that basically said that for anyone who wanted to slaughter chickens, I mean, it had to be like this way and done in this form and done in this format and all this other nonsense. And it was, believe it or not, it was Schechter Poultry Corp out of New York that came up and challenged this thing and got it completely overturned. Wow. So basically what I'm saying is there is legitimate Supreme Court jurisprudence that already sets a precedent for the 28th Amendment.
Let's go. All right, Jack. Well, thanks for hanging out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great.
Always good to have you. Shane's hanging out.
Jack told me that the second Trump is inaugurated, there's going to be a Pizza Hut renaissance, and I'm really excited.
Look, did you see there was one of these like, you know, kind of these Twitter accounts, these X accounts that they post stuff for like retweets now, you know, because it's all monetized, and it was talking about nostalgia, and it said, wait a minute, did you see that this old Pizza Hut is getting turned into a new Pizza Hut. 2025 has begun. You see, they bought it, Tim. They thought that we said Project 2025 wasn't happening. Oh, no. They didn't realize that the real Project 2025 was actually underneath that original report. That was all just silly stuff. It's really about taking all the old Pizza Huts that were abandoned and turning them into Pizza Huts, or perhaps a similar named organization thus far.
You know, what's that city in PA where they got one? I think it's let me.
Ohio has a ton of them.
Is it Breezewood?
There's a ton of them in Ohio. They call them like classic Pizza Huts.
Breezewood. There's a classic Pizza Hut there, and Allison and I were driving through it, and we were stopping for gas, and then we saw it, and we were like, we have to go inside.
Love pizza.
And it was.
Is that when you went up for Butler?
I think so. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, when we did the war room with the Cybertruck.
That's right. That was amazing. All right. Anyway, Phil's hanging out too.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. You know, Jack, you mentioned the Pizza Huts, and not that I have any problem with Taco Bells, but I do miss the days when you could go to a Pizza Hut and sit down that wasn't also a Taco Bell and a Kentucky Fried Chicken all mixed into one.
Yeah, because Yum Brands owned them all and was like, oh, we're going to put them all together. This idea of optimization, and it was the corporatization and the conglomerization of America that it did start in the 90s. We have to be fair about this. It started in the 90s and it continued on forward. There's that line in Austin Powers. Remember when Dr. Evil comes back and number 2 is like, don't you understand, Dr. Evil? There is no world anymore. It's all corporations now. And he's like, what?
We want our fast food
it's kind of true.
Segregated.
Bring back the pizza buffet.
Yes,
Bring back the pizza buffet.
CC's down in Florida.
Yeah, but isn't
Great
it
pizza
crazy
buffet.
that Pizza Hut gave up the pizza buffet and then other companies started Pizza Buffet and succeeded at it? Like,
crying
why
shame.
did they give that up?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff comes down to just corporate culture. And again, Pizza Hut was bought out by Yum Brands, and then Yum Brands was bought again and again and resold and resold. And so they just kind of got away from the idea of anyone who actually understood how the underlying business functioned. And so what made Pizza Hut great, and this is what something that, and by the way, you know, shout out to the late great Lou Dobbs, because he used to always talk about Pizza Hut nationalism. He would be like, Jack, this is one of the greatest things I've ever heard. This is perfect, because it's not about Pizza Hut, okay? That's what everybody gets wrong. It's about the feeling of community that you could have when you're at Pizza Hut. Those
I used to
old
deliver
commercials.
pizza for Pizza Hut.
And I do want to make sure we talk about news, but I'm going to say one more thing. That video Sam Hyde put out about the unquantifiable, how you can't import immigrants to bringing that back.
Yeah.
He's talking about Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
He's talking about going there and getting your personal pan pizza because you read a book, and the corporation had partnered with schools to get kids to read books, and then you get a little pizza.
Book it.
But then the parents end up buying more pizza, so it worked out for everybody. Yep. Let's go to the news. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a couple stories for you. We'll start off here. From Fox News, LA wildfires, California firebug arrest caught on video as police warn of arsonists. Take a look at this for those that are watching. Here's a guy being arrested on video. They say he started a fire. Then we have this from the Daily Mail. Firefighters catch second arsonist in the act of starting new blazes in LA, days after cops arrest illegal immigrant with a blowtorch. So not only do we have 2 suspected arsonists arrested, but a guy on camera wasn't arrested for arson with a blowtorch. And locals trying to stop this guy. So if we jump over to the airnow.gov website, we can see you've got the Eaton, Hearst, and Palisades. Now, the Eaton fire in Altadena and Palisades are the biggest, and they've got no control over this.
Wait, I have to say it. I'm sorry, but was the blowtorch guy going to say, it was self-defense. I was going to fight fire with fire.
I don't know what he was doing.
I'll see myself out.
So here's the crazy thing. They don't arrest this guy for arson. And so it's not, but come on. The challenging thing is for these big fires, dude, if some guy wanted to start a fire and flicked a cigarette into brush, how do you prove that it was arson? How do you track that guy down?
I mean, of course that guy wanted to start a fire. How many, I would imagine that there's multiple of these fires that have been started by people that are just like, man, I could probably get away with it. What's it like? You know, just crazy, weird people.
You saw the Bill Malugin report, right? Where out of Fox News, where he said that his sources, and Bill's been great on this stuff, that he was saying that it was in fact an illegal alien that they believe started the Kenneth fire.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't hear that one specifically. I heard that, I didn't hear the Malugin report, but I heard, I also heard that Sunset was an illegal immigrant.
Were they mentally ill? Do they
arson.
know?
I mean, if you're gonna commit arson, you're mentally ill. I don't know.
Fair enough. But
That's not to disparage the mentally ill. Like, that action requires you to be disturbed.
I had Jeremy Ryan Slate on Inverted World last night. He's in LA right now. He's seeing all these fires, and he's saying that there's gangs starting fires outside of houses to get people to evacuate to then loot the house.
Yes, they're saying cartel gangs are intentionally exacerbating the problems.
Yeah.
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
And you can move in.
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy. Malibu is burning.
Yep.
It's spreading and they can't stop it. This is not even, what is it, like 10% contained or something?
That's the
I
Palisades
heard
one
11%
right there.
last night, but not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough.
insane.
Last I heard, it was somewhere around 10%.
Well,
like
what's
11%
crazy
or
about
something.
this whole thing, and you know, and I am going to make it political, is like the wildfires in this area are not new. This has been going on since the area has existed. When the Spanish came there 500 years ago, right? They would see that there's just these there's these very unique physical characteristics to the land, to the wind, to the vegetation that's there that produces this pretty much once a year, pretty much regularly. And the natives, by the way, would say, no, you can't just leave the forest. You've got to maintain it. You've got to chop some of this stuff down. You've got to clear away this old brush. And I remember when Trump went out there in 2018, he said, you got to rake the forest, because it's Trump. And, he always says things in the Trump way, but that is what he's talking about. He's talking about cleaning it up. He's talking about managing your forest. And this was something that was known for hundreds of years.
They mocked him for that.
And yet and they mocked him, they ridiculed him, they attacked him, and like, oh, Newsom's got to take care of it. Newsom's going to be great. And here we are again.
That's been the situation, though, for, literally since 2017 when he took office. It was 16 when he was running, right? Like, the left just says, whatever Trump says, say the opposite, and it'll be fine. That's why Biden passed all those executive orders to undo all the things like remain in Mexico and all the things related to the border. And that's literally why we had that massive surge. Joe Biden specifically said, I want to see people surge the border, which blows my mind. If you go back and look at the debates, he literally said, I want to see people surge the border. Like welcoming people in and then set in, undid policies that would have prevented them. And now we've got an absolute mess with illegal immigration that Donald Trump is back now to clean up.
It's controlled collapse.
Yeah, it's the collapse of complex systems. And by the way, these are by and large, right? California, one of the biggest COVID states, right? So one of the biggest COVID areas. So just think about this, right? These are the people who said, just trust the experts, just listen to the government, just follow the guidance, follow DC, follow all. This is the way you do things. This is the way you get it right. And now suddenly all those people are sitting there in their TV, and it's horrible. By the way, it's absolutely horrible. And this is something that I think a lot of people get wrong about conservatives is like, no, we want to help, but the problem is that your ideas about how to fix the situation are so stupid that it's like you've got to just remove that person. Like, okay, that's nice. You sit over here and we'll explain to you how to make the fire go away. Because here's the problem, right? So with like something like these intangible, systemic racism, wokeism, critical race theory, all these different things, the phantom misogyny that exists. These are all intangibles, right? These are things that exist maybe in your head, you can't see them, but they're all theoretical in a sense. They're academic. But when a fire is coming to your house,
they're also unfalsifiable.
Yeah, they're unfalsifiable. But when a fire is coming to burn down your house, guess what? Like that is.
But don't you think it was worth it to
tangible.
save the smelt fish?
See, that's where I get into. All right, we did this, and it went kind of viral on Human Events Daily. Where have you guys ever seen that movie Chinatown, the old Jack Nicholson movie?
Yeah, with
John Huston.
Yeah.
Plays Noah Crowley. Have you seen it, Tim?
No.
Oh, dude.
Classic.
Dude, because the whole movie's about the California water wars, and which are a real thing that happened in the 20s, where basically it came down to who controlled the water in California, basically controlled the land, and what they were doing is they were denying land to specific areas so they could devalue it, so this developer could come in, buy up all the land at an incredibly low value, then incorporate, again, this is a Jack Nicholson movie from the 1970s, then incorporate the valley with the city, then bring the water in. This is, by the way, William Mulholland or John Mulholland? William Holland was in real life. This is where Mulholland Drive. That's where the name comes from. He was the water director of California. And, you know, he was like this totally corrupt guy that participated in all this in the building of the LA aqueduct. And the farmers were like bombing it and trying to stop it because it was going to ruin all their farms. And the movie is about all of this. And, you know, he's just this evil developer who knows that people are going to die, but he doesn't care. And there's this great scene where he's like, well, you see, Jake, you can, oh no, you see, Mr. Gitz, you can bring the water to L.A. or you can bring L.A. to the water. He's like, you're so rich, you're so rich. What could you possibly want that you can't already buy? The future, Mr. Gitz, the future. And so that character of Noah Cross is the one that Daniel Plainview is kind of based on in There Will Be Blood, because it's a very similar type of character. So I just keep watching all this news and I'm like, this is the plot of Chinatown just over and over and over again.
Yep.
Well, that's mismanagement for you. And these people are going to keep voting for it because nothing's going to change their mind. Newsom's already going on podcasts and saying Trump's lying about everything. Yep. Don't blame me. When he was asked about why the reservoir was drained, he goes, that's a local reservoir, not a state reservoir. Like, he has no responsibility for anything. Gone are the days where even if it wasn't the fault of the guy in charge, like this is what I was saying earlier this morning, a house would burn down and the fire chief would say, we let you down on this day.
Yeah.
And rest assured, we will do better next time. Now it's, hey, we didn't start the fire. That guy who was in there, he got himself in the wrong place by being in that burning building.
Did you see the clip of, I don't think it was that one, but it was one of these other LA fire chiefs, and I'm going to be very euphemistic about that, where she said that she wasn't actually sure how the water got into the fire hydrants.
What?
Like she was like, it's our firefighters' expectation that water's going to be there when we get there, and you know, I don't know how that water gets into those hydrants, and you're like,
well, they also
like,
have
that's not my job, like. Well, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe like is this one of those things where they say like women can't understand generalized knowledge? Because it's like, no, we understand that it's not your specific job to put the water in there, but you might want to, I don't know, have a basic understanding of how that works.
I want to,
like, I don't know, a reservoir.
I'm going to pull up this story. Let me see if I can find
a water tower.
Okay, it's also crazy that this lady's name has the word arson in it.
I want to.
Yes.
I'm okay, guys. I want you to make clips of this. I think this will help you out. Many people.
Wow.
Let me pause. A few years ago, it was maybe like 6-7 years ago. I had a bunch of videos on YouTube.com/Timcast. Go subscribe. We do a show every day 4 p.m. We just launched them back up. My mom said, Tim, why don't you talk about Republicans? I said, okay. What do you want me to say about Republicans? She's like, well, they do bad things. And I said, oh, okay. Like, what do you think they're doing that's bad? She's like, well, I don't know, but all you talk about is Democrats. And I said, maybe it's because the Republicans are like a lukewarm nothing party and the Democrats are evil. And she argued with me and I was like, you send me anything you see any day about Republicans doing something. And if I agree, I will absolutely criticize the Republicans. I'm not a fan of the Republican Party. And I'm reminded of this story. It reminds me of that moment. So for those of you out there that are watching this and who have family and friends who are like, Tim's biased, I'm going to explain to you very simply the core of what makes me despise the Democratic Party, progressives, wokeness, etc. It's a story here from NBC News. Take a look. Former child star Rory Sykes dies in California wildfires as mom tried to save him. This is a hard story to read. Former child star Rory Sykes, who was born blind and had cerebral palsy, died Wednesday in the wildfires after his mother said she was unable to save him from their home. See, the story is her arm was broken and she couldn't get the cinders off the building. She could not carry him out of the building and he was having trouble walking. He didn't want to leave. He was struggling. So she went to the fire department, asked them for help. He said, Mom, leave me. No mom could leave their kid. Shelley Sykes told Australian outlet 10 News she has a broken arm and could not lift or move her son. Shelley Sykes said she drove to the local fire department for help, but they told her they did not have any water. She said when the fire department brought her back, Rory's cottage was burnt to the ground. You understand the implications about what happened to Rory. He was trapped. The mother couldn't lift him, and he died in that fire. And now I want you to watch this video from Larson. She's I believe, the head of diversity for the LA Fire Department. I'm sorry, let me get the audio.
Response to your house, you want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Rory Sykes did not get himself in the wrong place.
They released that.
Rory Sykes did not put himself in the wrong place, you psychopathic monster. The requirement for the fire department is to be able to lift those who cannot lift themselves to save them from burning buildings. It's no one's fault. I don't care if you dropped a cigarette and your house started on fire. I don't care if you put a teddy bear next to a bunch of candles and your house started on fire. We will save you. And in this instance, a man with cerebral palsy who was blind and whose mother desperately tried to carry him out of a building she was terrified would burn down, was unable to do so, but he got himself in the wrong place. These are the people they hire. They're disgusting monsters that would leave you to burn to death so long as they get a salary to push their crackpot religion. That's why I despise these people. I hope that's clear. Look, that man has died because they are so insistent on hiring a DEI fire diversity officer who has the nerve to say, if you are stuck in a fire, you got yourself in the wrong place. Tell that to the disabled man with cerebral palsy. It's his fault. That's what they said. Screw these people, dude.
Miranda Devine had some, and it's not directly related to this, but it's related to DEI. She had this huge piece last year about the FBI. And kind of similar situation. We're talking about, people who are supposed to be first responders, that type of thing. And she had these whistleblowers coming through in FBI recruitment and who were actual recruiters and trainers in Quantico. And they were talking about how in the DEI policies that if somebody was considered a DEI candidate, they weren't allowed to fail them. Even if they didn't pass the physical test, and again, this is FBI, but you could see these policies everywhere. That's what we're talking about. And so if you couldn't pass the physical test, even if you were 50 pounds overweight, even if you were illiterate and couldn't write a basic report, even if you couldn't pass the obviously intellectual and investigative tests, you were all pushed forward. And they would try to fail people and they would come back and say, oh no, this person, you can't fail someone of this gender because we need to meet this quota, or you can't fail someone of this sexual orientation, or you can't fail them because it's a minority and it's a female. So, and it was all headquarters and it was all Chris Wray and was pushing this down, and this crap, it's literally getting people killed.
This is the culmination,
burned alive.
It's the culmination of the pandemic of incompetence, because it's the DEI stuff, it's the empty reservoirs, it's all these bad policies coming to a head and killing people.
Whether it was, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. Well, I don't know if it was 2024 to 2023, but there were a lot of people that were talking about the idea of a crisis of competence was coming. Mm-hmm. That there was talk about. A lot of talk about airplanes, like there was airports that were near misses, and they were talking about these things. This is going to lead to some kind of accident.
The train crash.
There's a crisis of competence coming. Yep. This is the manifestation of crisis of competence. Yep. This is what happens when you have people in positions that they don't deserve to be in. And when I say deserve, I don't mean deserve as in have the right colored skin or whatever. I mean they don't have the qualifications, and they put a person in to fill a slot believing that everybody is the same. People are not all the same. Mm-hmm. Different people have different skills and different abilities, and those skills and abilities matter in the real world. We live in the real world. These people don't believe that there is a real world. They believe that they can speak reality.
They're trying to rewrite the real world.
They believe they can speak reality into existence, and you cannot.
You also get an idea of, it's like atheists trying to create heaven here in utopia here on Earth.
Yeah, they're doing the opposite of that.
Indeed.
When you said the crisis of competency was coming, yeah, you are correct. I remember with the airplanes, Charlie Kirk was smeared as a racist for saying he was concerned about DEI hiring.
I was on that show with him.
Absolutely stupid. His point was not about the race of the individual, about the hiring practices of liberals.
Yes, obviously.
At the time, when people were saying diversity hiring is going to cause a plane to fall out of the sky, how could anyone have predicted that diversity measures would burn down Los Angeles? Yet here we are. Yahoo News, picking up from Salon, quote, DEI is deadly. Fox News spin on California wildfires exposes MAGA's total incoherence. Because we are criticizing the fact.
So it's Jesse Waters' fault.
It is. So we criticize the fact that these people are incapable of doing their jobs to the point where LA's got a fire chief saying, your husband got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. Yeah, okay. This is a problem of culture, and it's a problem of hiring people who are bad at their jobs or unwilling to do them for the sake of hiring a person who is a certain race or sexual orientation.
It's also getting
or sexual fetish now, which is a really weird thing, by the way, but it's happening.
What it comes down to as well is in terms of the predictive groups or the protected groups and the classes, it's not even all that different from what you saw in the Soviet Union, because it's all predicated on this idea that everyone can be equal.
Stalin had a DEI program.
Yeah.
They had programs that were intended to put people into positions not based on skill, but based on having the right.
How'd that work out?
So did Chairman Mao.
Clearly not. Yeah,
Chairman Mao had the same thing. And if you were a serf, if you were a petty landowner, if you're a petty landowner, you were killed or struggle sessioned away. If you were a serf, if you were a peasant, you would be like put in charge of a factory, and it all ground into the dirt. And so, of course, the real question though is. Is it just incompetence at the base level, or is it, as I would argue in this clip right here, and I wrote a whole book about this and got smeared and attacked and everything, is it on some level they view you as the problem if you are the right target group? If you this is the Luigi Maggioni situation where this guy is an affluent white male and therefore he needs to go down because Luigi Maggioni had picked a different target, had picked someone who was potentially in one of these protected classes. Guess what? There'd be no fandom.
That'd be really weird, right? If, like the healthcare CEO was some black dude.
Yeah. See what I'm saying? All of a sudden it all falls apart. Then nobody loves him.
They'd call him a white supremacist.
They call him a white supremacist. They'd say he's
lynching
racist,
successful minorities.
It would be totally flipped, and they'd be all against him. Meanwhile, because he picked a white straight male, then suddenly he goes after this. Which she kind of talks about that. You couldn't carry my husband. It's a guy. You notice that?
Of course,
she picks a guy. You couldn't carry my husband. What? Because the guy had smoke inhalation.
If your husband did this, well, he's just a dumb guy, and he deserves it. He deserves to suffer and die.
Right.
Don't expect me to be able to carry him. He made dumb decisions. He got himself into a bad position, and so now he deserves to suffer.
Right. So this is what we got at in the book on humans, where we said it is not based on equality. It is not based on social justice. That is all window dressing.
Yep.
That is all just what they say. It's about resentment. It's about hatred. It's about wanting. By the way, the greenies are sitting there looking at this and say, yes, we want these human structures to burn. We want humanity to burn. We want society to fall. All these rich 1%ers, let them burn for what they've done to Mother Earth, for what they've done to Mother Gaia. We want them to suffer. They look at this and they cheer it. They want more of it. And you watch, by the way, I'm not saying that this was done, but there have been time and time again where even the FBI has put out reports saying that eco-terrorists are one of the #1 causes of forest fires. I'm not saying these ones specifically were YouTube censors or whatever, but it has been reported many, many, many times, and it's because they take on. Which, funny enough, we were even before the fire started. I've been giving my kids the Batman marathon. I was showing them the old Batman movies, like the Tim Burton, the Joel Schumacher movies, and Mask of the Phantasm, of course, the best one. And Poison Ivy's character in Batman and Robin, which we all kind of like laugh at that movie. Her character, it wants to kill all of humanity so that plants can take back the world. And it's like
Thanos.
And it's like, okay, so
he wants to kill people to save. Does he want to kill people to save?
He wanted to cull half the population, so the other half would be.
It's the same motivation. Right. It's the same.
Here's what I say, though.
Poison Ivy wants all animals dead because plants are better.
Right. And so in the 90s, that was considered like a hilarious character that we could all laugh at and make fun of and like obviously evil, right? Whereas now it's like that position is platformed. There's money that's put behind it. George Soros and Klaus Schwab and Greta Thunberg have like massive conferences all about this. And we're talked to as if they're like, this is important and we want something like this, where it's clearly anti-human. So don't tell me for a second that there aren't people cheering this on, because there are.
Oh, yeah. Clearly, there's absolutely people. I mean, there are people that think that there are too many human beings on Earth. Which the actual
That's what
problem
I'm talking about.
The actual problem that we're going to be facing is the fact that, that there's population collapse. There aren't enough people to replace the people that exist now.
Well, that goes country by country because you look like Africa's having a parabolic population explosion right now.
Sure, but in Western countries,
yes.
Though.
Take a look at this story. This is actually from last week, but still interesting. LAPD hasn't linked LA fires to MAGA. Cause of blaze unknown. I kid you not. Updated today.
Oh, wait, what?
That's right. The story was just updated.
Wait, how is it MAGA's fault?
So check it out.
I'm more interested in that part.
They say several posts claim the LA authorities linked the wildfires to 3 Trump supporters. Quote, apparently LAPD are looking for 3 persons of interest, all tied to a MAGA website, who were spotted at the source of all 3 major fires. This might have been the opening salvo in Trump's war against any state he considers an enemy within. The post was shared more than 200 times in 4 days. False, they say. There's no claim that MAGA started these fires.
They were saying, this is MAGA country.
I got to say something. This may be the first time that I've seen, like, the left getting fact-checked on something this big. And by the way, Tim, I scroll down a little bit again because don't bury the lead there. That's a Threads post. So they're actually fact-checking stuff that's which I didn't even know there were 200 people still on Threads, apparently. All 200 people on Threads.
Every single one of them
Every single one. It's 100% of the users.
Let me just tell you guys how dangerous Threads is a dangerous source of misinformation.
Radicalization.
It is. Mark Zuckerberg is personally spreading.
Just like how Parler apparently created January 6th.
That's right.
Is Threads still allowed on the App Store?
I think Threads should be banned and arrested.
Oh, clearly, Mark Zuckerberg
IP.
says that he's against, he's against misinformation now, and says that he's going to be turning over a new leaf. Zuck.
I totally believe him, too.
What if since he came
absolutely believable.
Wait. Like, this is a good point. Like Mark Zuckerberg says they're going to get rid of the misinformation. I think everybody should just flood Threads with based memes and be like, you can't do anything about it now.
Prove it. Yeah, I still. That being said, though, it's like, so let me get this straight. He donates like $500 million to Joe Biden's reelect in 2020 through his, through Zuckerbucks and this whole system that eventually sees CCL, which helps Biden get reelected. And then, so he dresses like a Philly boy and like lets his fro grow out and puts a chain on.
He's a Lil Dicky impersonator.
And now it's all cool. Like, now it's all just cool. Nah, man, I don't buy it for a second. I'm sorry, Zuck. Like, you actually have to do something. You have to do something to show us that you've turned over a new leaf. And so, like,
Dana White on the board is like,
okay. I mean, that's something, but again, that's still like, it's like it's a potentiality.
Right.
I want to see that something on Instagram or Facebook or Threads has actually changed.
If this was actually a pendulum swing for Zuckerberg,
because boards don't run organizations.
Zuckerberg would have come out and said, to improve the system, we're adding 10 conservative fact checkers to the website, giving them the ability to downrank news that they find to be incorrect. That would be the pendulum swing.
Right.
Zuckerberg coming out and saying, we're taking away the left's ability to suppress the right, and now everyone's on a neutral playing field, is him saying, we're not giving you anything at all. We're just going back to zero.
Which, by the way, I'm going to say something. Like putting someone on the board, like that's like DEI for MAGA. Just because it's Dana White, right? It doesn't mean he's actually in charge of anything. Like, okay, he's on the board, right? Is anyone listening to him, or is anyone taking direction from him? Does he have higher fire ability? Does he have any actual control of? And that's nothing against him, by the way. And if he does, then great. If he does have this ability, that's great. But otherwise, it looks like virtue signaling to me without any actual action with teeth behind it. We believe in action around here. Action gets results. And I know we're going to see 100 executive orders from President Trump next week. By the way, this is what I want him to do. I want him in the middle of his speech. So he's going to get up there. He's going to go on the dais. He's going to be on the balcony. He's speaking. What I want him to do is just turn around, and instead of addressing the people in the crowd, start addressing all of the politicians in the balcony that's right behind him, and then have Stephen Miller just walk up with his stack of 100 executive orders, and he just reads the title off, and Trump just signs it. Signed. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to be deploying the U.S. Army from Fort Travis directly to the fires in the Palisades, or wherever they're still, Brentwood, or wherever they're still going, and we're going to have them put them out immediately. Just do it. So start doing stuff immediately.
Adrienne Curry just says, I was remonetized on Facebook today. Congratulations.
Okay.
You know,
it's like a trickle. It's like a trickle, a thimble of your gratitude from the great Zuck. From the great Zuck, the wise and great. Oh, thank you, Lord Zuck. Thank you so much. Wow, this is incredible. No, I mean, like, we all know people that have been banned, demonetized, and censored on Facebook to the point where it's kind of a joke. Like, people don't even really go there that much.
Oh yeah.
I long said Facebook was one of the worst for censorship because, like, YouTube was decent. Like, nobody was good. Like, well, like X and Rumble are good, right? But YouTube was decently bad, but nowhere near the worst. TikTok is the worst. 100% the worst. Absolutely. We got banned on TikTok for having guests, not for breaking rules. That's our understanding. So it's like I think we had Myron Gaines on and said nothing that broke the rules, and they banned us. And like, account gone, and we're like, okay.
Yeah.
Facebook was massively censorious on a wide range of political issues. So we'd literally be like, this video talks about gender issues, we'll get banned. YouTube, we talked about all of it. The worst case scenario, for the most part, was we get demonetized. Don't get me wrong, YouTube still censored, COVID and medical stuff, but Facebook was really bad. Let's see if Facebook improves. However, I guess the problem is Zuckerberg destroyed the platform. It's useless now. Yeah. It's useful for boomers, and I mean that with no disrespect, like boomers use it, but because of what they did in censoring everything, Gen Z and younger people went other places.
Right.
Yeah, I never go there. I have no desire to go back either.
I have friends like Tanya will, like my wife will. She'll go on there but she's also curated it in such a way where she really can only see what her friends are sharing. Mm-hmm. So she uses it for like friends and family, and that's it.
Yeah,
it's not something where she's like trying to build a following or something. Which I kind of wish I could have that.
Right.
Back, you know?
We made $310 on Facebook in the past month.
Congratulations!
Wow.
Look at that.
That's right.
We making it in.
I guess one of the biggest podcasts in the world.
Tim, now you don't have to sell the show.
That's right.
Folks. You don't realize this. Tim's been, as I drove up here, he was sitting out front with like a little tin can. He's like, please donate to Timcast.
On the weekends, we have to.
It's the only way. We're gonna lose everything.
I was holding up a sign saying, "Become a member at Timcast.com."
We're gonna lose everything.
On the weekends, we all have to.
There's a cow looking at him, kind of funny.
The lemonade stand. We all have to sit at the lemonade stand.
Yeah, Phil's number one in sales, though. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, how do you do that? What are you putting in that lemonade, Phil?
A little caffeine. Something.
We're going to talk about that. Or something else that starts with a C.
But yeah, I do think it's funny that on Threads, they're pushing, like, has the left, they've done this, right? They make fake stories and then spread them around.
Yeah, it's called CNN. It's called Russiagate. It's called,
that's what I mean. Like, it's long been the corporate
the CIA, the FBI,
Yeah.
Like there's the whole thing about
these posts came from CIA guys who don't work in the government anymore because Trump got elected. They quit.
Oh, right.
So now they're on Threads posting it, and MAGA's.
They're like,
the greatest threat is white supremacy.
So by the way, that would have been their like FBI report that was going to come out. By the way, I was joking. I was saying that for Kash Patel when he gets nominated, or Pete Hegseth, who by God should pass his confirmation hearing tomorrow. Let's give it up for Pete Hegseth, and screw the Wall Street Journal for coming after him at the 11th hour like they are right now. Screw those guys. Pete Hegseth is the man that the American people want. He's the man veterans want, and I don't play my veteran card very much, but I will play it for Pete Hegseth.
I have a correction. We actually made $1,740 on Facebook last month.
Wow.
Well, now we're talking, That's right. That's enough to...
Phil, you don't have to sell the cocaine lemonade this week.
I love what I do, though.
Feels like I drank it all.
I love what I do,
Keep selling it to this guy named Hunter B. He keeps coming up for Phil's lemonade for some reason.
He says he comes up from DC.
No, but what they should do for the government, right, to have to set this up. So people are saying that, okay, the first thing you have to do is make them actually show up for their jobs again. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's big, right? Obviously we want that. So none of the teleworking. You've got to actually show up for your jobs. That'll get like 30% right there. And then if you want to get rid of like the next 70% of federal workers, maybe there's like a slim majority that'll stick around. They'll hold on by the skin of their teeth. force them to say the Pledge of Allegiance every single morning in person in their offices and in a group setting.
And they live stream that too?
Oh yes.
Yeah, we should all see it.
We should all have to see it so we can check to make sure that everyone's there. And if someone's not there, time cards, baby, time cards. Let's go.
Doge in there.
Let's go.
I strongly believe that that they should do all they can to move all of the agencies out of DC. I firm believer in that.
Yeah, but it's an opportunity for investment in new areas in the country too, like Alaska
or Greenland.
Greenland. Trump wants to buy Greenland to put the deep state there.
Send them all back.
So I can't fire you, but I can put you all in Nook.
See, what they don't realize is that the crystal fields are in the subterranean layer in Greenland, and so we'll need lots of crystals and lots of storage space for certain purposes.
Storing the deep state.
Certain purposes.
Storing them.
It's kind of like the Phantom Zone in Superman.
In all seriousness, though, we should occupy Alaska, as you had advocated for in the past.
Occupy Alaska. Look, if we're going to occupy anywhere, if we're going to invade anywhere, right? Don't invade Afghanistan. Don't, go for the lithium fields in East Tennessee or whatever it is. Go for Alaska. Just go for that. We should be using this as look, I went up there with Daniel Turner, who I know comes on here all the time, and he was showing us around. And look, there's some pristine, gorgeous, beautiful national parks up there. I love them. And by the way,
we can tear it all down to drill, baby, drill.
I love Mount McKinley. And we're going to be calling it Mount McKinley again, renaming it Mount McKinley.
Yeah, what do they call it now? Denali?
I don't know, because its name is Mount McKinley, Tim.
That's right.
That's the only name I care
about. Also Barrow. I think
Barrow
Trump should mandate Utqiagvik as Barrow again.
Yeah, because everyone's telling me that even like the Alaskans are like, we just say Barrow. Like we can't even
It was like a couple dozen activists who voted to change the name, and they did.
And so but then he took us up to Prudhoe Bay after that, and we're up there, and I was like, dude, it's all mud. It's all mud. It's ugly. It's just like muddy tundra, like whatever kind of land. But you know what's under that? You know why it's muddy? Because it's oil. Because there's oil, because there's not. This is Anwar. So it's oil, there's natural resources. And I kid you not, as we were driving around with Daniel Turner, this is a couple years ago now, and the whole thing about like the caribou, and it turns out that the caribou actually like the pipeline because it's warm, and so it gives them the ability to breed more. So their numbers have actually gone up since the pipeline was built. It's
they like huddle around it.
Go look at it. Oh, they do more than huddle, Tim. It starts with huddling. Is that what you call it?
That's what the kids call it these days.
Huddle it up. And as we were driving around, we actually saw a bunch of caribou like walking by the pipeline. I was like, did you plan this? Like, did you have like a trailer with some caribou and a walkie-talkie? Like, all right, Posobiec's coming around, pull them out. And no, they were literally frolicking around this thing. And it's like, this can work. This can totally work. Also, on that trip, I did get the chance to, I was going to jump into the Arctic Ocean. And he was like, Jack, I have liability issues. But I did get my hand in. So that's an important one to get. So we got to do that.
It was I think negative 30 something, like when I was in Alaska, and that's nuts.
Yeah,
standing outside for even like a minute and icicles start forming everywhere on your face. Yep. Because as you breathe, it just starts freezing. Right. Like the humidity goes to your eyelashes, and then you get just ice on your face. It's nuts. And I saw the Aurora Borealis at that time of year in that part of the country,
localized
entirely above the Fairbanks Airport. Let's pull up this story.
May I see it?
No. All right, we got this. Shout out to Richie. This is from Fox News. Gavin Newsom defends fire response with fact check site linking to Democrat Party fundraising platform.
Wait. Linking to what?
Democrat Party fundraising platform, actually a political action committee called ActBlue.
That's not real. There's no way.
Democrats are skimming 4% of your donations off the top. And is totally legal, and I am not suggesting anything untoward. I just think it's unethical. That's my opinion. This is ActBlue. It's a big scandal. Go to youtube.com/Timcast, subscribe, because we put up a video every 4 p.m. We have an essay breakdown on what ActBlue is, how they're basically skimming off the top. But we're going to go over it right now. So check this out. Gavin Newsom posts this website, California Fire Facts, and he says, get the facts. And up top on the right, it says, donate to Cal Fire Foundation. Would you like to donate to the California Fire Foundation, Jack Posobiec?
Oh, I mean, who wouldn't? How dare you not donate?
I am
You're refusing to donate to Cal Fire Foundation.
I'm going to click the button.
Because you just hate the firemen, don't you?
I clicked the button.
All right. Wait, hold on.
What's that website say?
That looks that's not a picture of a firefighter.
That's Gavin Newsom.
That's Gavin Newsom.
And what does the website say? What's the URL?
The URL says secure.actblue.com.
Well, that doesn't sound like firefighters. The firefighters called the ActBlue Fire Department. What's the name of the fundraising page?
Campaign for Democracy?
Well, that doesn't sound like no firefighters.
Oh my.
And then it says this. Your donation will go directly towards supporting firefighters in the communities they serve, including direct financial support to impacted residents. Your contribution will benefit California Fire Foundation. So what's the problem? It's going to go to the firefighters, right? However, underneath it says contribution rules. Charitable donations made through this form are received and processed by ActBlue Charities, Inc., a 501c3 tax-exempt organization formed to democratize charitable giving and are subject to ActBlue's terms of service. The merchant of record in this transaction is ActBlue Charities, Inc. We subsequently give your contribution to the organization or cause that you have selected on the contribution form within 30 days. Okay. Well, so what's the issue here, Jack? I mean, it's not... I thought I was going to the firefighters website, but why is that a problem?
So the issue with it is that you're putting money in the pocket of a directly politically associated organization, ActBlue, which we know works to exist to elect or push for progressive values that has nothing to do with directly impacting firefighters.
No, it directly impacted this. Definitely, they're the cause.
Impacted
they're
the
absolutely
people
the
who
cause.
created the fires in the first place, and potentially stand to benefit in some cases, like the plot of Chinatown tells us. No, completely insane.
Let me read this from Fox News. The ActBlue website states that donations made via the platform include a 3.95% processing fee, which is passed on to the groups using our platform. The New York Post reported that ActBlue waived the fees for fire donations, though the fundraising behemoth did not immediately respond to Fox's digital request to comment. So here's the gist of it. If you go to the California Fire Foundation's direct website, you can donate directly without 4% going to ActBlue.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
It doesn't say on the ActBlue site that they're waiving the fee, as far as I can tell. However, they are saying in the news report that they're waiving that fee. But the bigger story, largely, is that they're collecting your information.
And they're getting your data, yeah.
They're getting your data, your emails. They're going to know where you live. And they are using that to campaign for political office. They are manipulating and exploiting a disaster to try and win elected office.
It doesn't, I mean, I can't get over this, by the way. It's a giant picture of Gavin Newsom. I mean, that right there is politicking. It's Gavin Newsom. It doesn't even, he's just obviously at a political event. He has nothing to do with firefighting here.
And it says donate to Cal Fire Foundation. And when you click it, it brings you to Gavin Newsom's campaign for democracy. I'm assuming it's his. It's a big picture of him. It's amazing, isn't it?
So in the 1970s, the Weather Underground, domestic Marxist terrorists, blew up a lot of people, went to jail after being fugitives.
Well,
Bill Ayers, Bill Ayers, Susan Rosenberg, bad people. Susan Rosenberg was pardoned by Bill Clinton on his last day in office. She became a professor. Years later, she started Thousand Currents. And then during the 2020 riots, Thousand Currents helped ActBlue funnel all their money to bail funds for BLM terrorists. This is what they do. The ActBlue loves to fund terrorists.
Who was their stepson, by the way?
He was the only guy recalled in California, I believe.
Chesa Boudin.
Is that his name?
I don't know if that's how you say it, but Chesa Boudin, who was the San Francisco DA, who was basically the Soros-backed DA, was the stepson of these two people who, by the way, the reason he was their stepson was because their parents were in jail for all of the bombing.
Cuomo just pardoned.
You were wrong, technically.
Where at?
The Weather Underground didn't blow anyone but themselves up.
Well, they killed some people in Nanuet.
There was, what was it, the shooting?
In New York.
The bank robbery.
The bank robbery.
Right. Yeah. That was a shooting, wasn't it?
It might have been a shooting in Nanuet.
The bombing was, the only people who were killed in Weather Underground bombings
themselves.
were 3 members of the Weather Underground.
Okay.
So,
they still killed people.
So
they were
hoping
to bomb people.
They did blow up a lot of people themselves.
But they were planning to align the white elite, overeducated degenerates with the Black Liberation Front, which is what they ended up doing with Susan Rosenberg and BLM in 2020.
And by the way, that headline of the BLM founders' house is burning down was fake news. It was satire. It was
Too good to be true.
But yeah, Bill Ayers raised that kid while his parents were
Bill
in
Ayers
jail.
raised the
and
kid, yeah.
Cuomo, on his last day in office, pardoned that guy's dad at the behest of the
Guys,
son.
Amazing.
Listen,
Amazing.
the left is better at organizing than you are.
True.
Than we are.
Yep.
It's so look, I used to work for a bunch of these nonprofits, and I was flabbergasted when me and my friends found out there's a network of progressive nonprofits where you've got to have 3 board members for a nonprofit. It's like secretary, treasurer, and president or something. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a while. And what they would do is they would have these unpaid board positions, and then they would have executive staff positions, and they would each get paid like $60,000 a year. Then between these people, they would be part of another nonprofit where the executive staffers are board members and the board members are executive staff. So they're all getting paid salaries, like 3-4 salaries from each different nonprofit, where they're differently on the boards of each. And we were like, wow, that's really crazy. They keep starting these nonprofits. Here's the con. One of the reasons I got out of the industry. I remember asking a nonprofit, what do you do with the funds? So when we say like 90% of the funding goes to the cause, people ask, like, if I give you $10, how much goes to the cause? We tell them $9. And they go, really? 90%? That's right. Only 10% is administrative. So I asked the guy, what is that 90% going towards? And he said, fundraising. I said, what? He says, isn't getting out and spreading the message the most important thing we can do? And I was like, you mean to tell me that we're raising money to pay ourselves to raise money? And he was like, yes, but we're educating the public while we do it of these problems in the environment. And that's the only way to bring about change is to affect the public in that way. And I was like, it sounds like you're full of it. And you're just
malarkey.
Full of malarkey.
Look, I do
Which brings me to my good friends, Pod Save America. You guys want to talk about Pod Save America?
I want to do a quick shout out on all this to a great Californian named Mike Cernovich right now.
He's great.
Who,
Big fan.
Up on Give, Send, Go has raised, I believe, something like $250,000. And then he and his family put up some money. They're working with Chef Gruel.
Absolutely.
And those
Heroes.
guys. And he's done it. I know Breitbart did a write-up earlier. It said he's doing it in such a way where he's not even touching a single cent. Give, Send, Go, I don't know if they have an administrative fee or not, but he's just putting all of his money where his mouth is. And he's just done that by himself, by the way, with no organization other than just posting it on Twitter.
Watch Newsom stop.
I'm a big fan. I got a lot of respect for Mike Cernovich. He's great. And the stuff he's doing down in California to help is fantastic. And also shout out to Chef Gruel. We're working with him on the ActBlue franchises, and he's been leading the charge down in California to giving people a place to come together if they've lost their homes, providing relief efforts. He had this great story where he said Amazon truck driver came and brought them stuff and then helped out. Right? Very cool to hear. And while we're talking about that, let's jump over to our friends over at Pod Save America. So I'll give you the quick version. And I want to stress, I don't think these guys are doing anything legally wrong. This is some of the most brilliant organizing I've ever seen. So someone pointed out that Pod Save America, that Vote Save America, a nonprofit, their biggest expenditure was media buys from Pod Save America. So you basically, I'll just give you a simple version of the story. This guy, John Favreau, says you're a fraud. VSA Action isn't even a PAC. It's a nonprofit. All you have to do is click the link to see where the money goes. And this is where things are being confused. Vote Save America, a PAC, and Vote Save America Action are two different groups. Pod Save America was fundraising for Vote Save America Action to assist with the fire relief. You donate to them, they break up the donations among 5 different charities. Through ActBlue, however, which by default takes a fee, so there is still that issue. They're campaigning off this. But here's the real issue. So let me pull up Vote Save America. Let's see if I can find this. Here we go. Influence Watch. Pod Save America, for those that don't know, is a large leftist liberal podcast. It's very prominent in this country. According to Influence Watch, Vote Save America is an online voter guide operated by left-of-center political media company Crooked Media. VSA's Adopt a State campaign steers activists who do not reside in battleground states to volunteer in the effort, blah, blah, blah. We get the point. They're progressives. So it's run by Crooked Media, which is Pod Save America. Pod Save America. So here's their website, Vote Save America. I want to donate to support the anxiety relief program. It says, when you click it, your contribution will benefit Vote Save America. They say that they started the anxiety relief program to fund grassroots organizations, campaigns, and voter protection efforts that are too often overlooked. In 2024, because of donors' generosity, they raised $3.7 million. That funding supported over 67 partner organizations, 14 states, 36 down-ballot candidates, 45 House campaigns, 7 U.S. Senate campaigns. Would you like to see the number one expenditure for Vote Save America? It's crooked media. I'm not saying they're not contributing to these other platforms. They're not helping. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. I'm saying this is brilliant. From the looks of things, and I could be missing context, and I think that's fair, it appears to me that Pod Save America promotes a nonprofit that they run, and then the nonprofit pays the podcast to promote them.
It's a human centipede.
What percentage is that?
It looks, I could be wrong, but maybe about 35 to 40%.
It's huge.
$2.8 million. Their second largest expenditure is Vote Save America, which presumably is themselves. I don't know. At $387,000, followed by Blue State Digital, $260, ActBlue, $152, PAC for America's Future. I do think it's fair to say that I think if we look at their total, I don't know if we can take their total, total revenue. You can see their total expenses. All right, here we go. Contributions. They gave 2.2. In media, it was 2.2. So I don't know. I think to Crooked Media, which is their media company, it's not just ad buys. It's also consulting and other things. But you can see it's 32.31% media of their expenditures. I think it's brilliant. What the point I'm bringing you guys is that the left organizes better than the right.
Okay, but there's a corollary to that. Is that when Steve Bannon set up a nonprofit, or actually promoted a nonprofit that he didn't even set up himself to fund the building of a private wall. So, conservatives said, hey, you know what? We really want this wall built. And this is back when Mitch McConnell and those guys were blocking the funding, and President Trump was trying to use military funding, declare a national emergency because we had a giant illegal alien problem. They said, all right, we'll get private land. We'll set up a nonprofit. We'll get people to donate to the nonprofit. We'll crowdfund this. And then we can build the wall literally ourselves on private land. And he's going to jail for that because they found they're claiming that, by the way, there are already people in jail for that. He had federal charges on that, which required a pardon. He has state charges for that are coming up under Letitia James in New York City and Alvin Bragg and all of this. So they're trying to put Steve Bannon in jail. He goes on trial, by the way, next month. Wow. In New York City over this. And by the way, over they used a straw donor. I think it's like a $21 donation. And this guy said, I feel like I was defrauded because of the percentages that were not going to the wall, that were going to other places, which, by the way, they were lower than average for for charitable organizations. Like, look at Wounded Warriors. This is a huge problem, by the way, with the Red Cross. That the Red Cross gets criticized like this for a ton because what do they spend so much of their money on? Like you were saying, fundraising activities. But Steve Bannon is going to go to jail for that because we have lawfare in this country. So yes, agreed that liberals do have a massive generational, and it is one generation ahead. And you got great people out there like Charlie Kirk and others. By the way, shout out to the Turning Point Ball. I hear it's going to be pretty hot this Sunday night. I plan to be there, and as well as the Coronation Ball. But look, when the right tries to do that, literally we get put in jail.
Yep.
This is. There will be no kind of, there will be nothing even close to resembling an investigation or anything like that. I mean, no one's going to even look at these guys crossly.
So here's a quick point. I'm going to start the Phil Labonte Foundation for saving sick cats. And when, you donate to that foundation, rest assured you are doing the most effective thing you can do to help save sick cats. Then, of course, Phil, your foundation owes me for that ad read I just did, so pay me all the money. Isn't spreading the word about sick cats the most important thing you can do to save them?
Of course it is.
There you go. There's nothing illegal about that, right?
Is Pod Save America the guys who were the Obama speechwriters?
I don't know.
I think some of them, yeah.
Right? So they're
perhaps
connected.
They have a Stacey Abrams podcast.
Oh, that's
basically
exciting.
The simple version is people donate to this political action committee for a variety of causes. I don't know how they allocate their funds, but it does appear just based on open secrets that their largest expenditure by a lot, single, is their own media company. So look, I think Democrats love this. I want to stress this. If you go to a progressive and say, did you know when you donate to this charity, you're actually helping fund leftist podcasts? They're going to go, that's awesome. We need a media narrative machine. All these liberals keep screaming how they need to make money to do this. They are loving the machine operates this way.
It's their religion.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, there's going to be a lot of regular people who don't know this and don't know they're inadvertently funding media shows or ActBlue.
Well, I mean, again, there's an entire one of the most brilliant things that George Soros ever did was just simply create the make-work ecosystem of the left to say that you can be a liberal, progressive activist and yet have a full-time job, make like $150,000 a year and go and do this work for progressive causes full-time. There's nothing like that.
I thought you were going to say it was that he convinced the world he didn't exist.
No, that's Kevin Spacey. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Then his best ROI move, of course, was the prosecutors. But this idea that you can just have a generation of millennials that exist and have their entire lives and their families, to the extent that they have families, or their designer children that they purchase from surrogates, gone and bought for by this donor money. It's genius. And when you go to people on the right and you'll say like, oh, we need to donate for this thing, and they say, what's the ROI on that? It's like, well, the ROI is that we win the culture and then thus win the country. And they sit there and go like, I don't think that's going to make money. I'm not donating. That's why you don't see good conservative movies. That's why, by and large, that's why you don't see good conservative content outside of stuff like, I'm not even saying this is conservative content. We're just talking about the news here, outside of a few others, because you don't see these massive donors just writing checks and putting it into the ecosystem like that.
Yep. Let's jump to the story from USA Today. We have good news, everybody. Don't worry. Directed energy weapons did not start the LA wildfires because this guy, Andre Biek, who works in an office, somehow knows that. Listen, I don't think the wildfires were started by lasers or anything like this, but the idea that some dude sitting in his office debunked the claim is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, bro, maybe if the fire chief comes out and tells us definitively what started the fires, I will agree with it's debunked. But what ends up happening with these fact checkers is they go, that sounds crazy, so I'm going to call it fake. And then they just run fact check fake.
Yeah.
That's how we ended up with people saying lab leak isn't real, because the narrative machine said no, COVID lab leak isn't real, and now they're saying COVID lab leak is what happened. So the claim: image shows directed energy weapons caused 2025 wildfires. Now, to be fair, I think it's fine if you say that the image is wrong. Our rating false. The causes of the LA fires has not been announced as of January 10th. There's no credible evidence the fires were caused by directed energy weapons, which have repeatedly and falsely been linked to high-profile wildfires for years. Look, if I'm going to be honest, as a newsman, I would just say unverified.
Right. Well, now I think there's lasers.
Did you
Right. As soon as they say it's not, I'm like, oof.
Did you see the Newsweek thing with Tulsi Gabbard today that Alexa Henning put out? So this is incredible. I have it here. I pulled it up on X. This was amazing. So Alexa Henning and she works. I think she was in the Trump White House before. So they reached out and they said, "Hi, Tulsi Gabbard spreads Russian and Assad propaganda. Can you comment?" She responds back, "Can you send me exact quotes of this?" They send over a few Newsweek articles, and then she's like, "But wait, there aren't any exact quotes in here. What quotes are you specifically referring to?" And this is Sophie Grace Clark, who's another one of these type of fact checkers, and saying, "Have you included her exact quotes?" Here's the response: "That is not what the story is about. I am merely providing context around her choice as a cabinet pick. If I write a longer story on her in the future, I will turn to those quotes. Thank you for sending me your time and your reference to Trump's statement on her nomination. I've used that in the story." So this is amazing because it's like she's saying, "Can you ask me what specific quotes from Tulsi Gabbard you would like me to respond to? And I'll give you a response to them." And she's saying,
"Nope.
I'm not writing a story about things she said. I'm writing a story about things that we think about her."
Right.
And you have to respond to that. So without any basis in direct fact, there's just these comments about, and it gets into, this brutal stuff, chemical weapons attacks and Assad and Russia and the invasion of 2022. And it's like all this pretty, obviously very heavy, very serious stuff. And she's going to be going in as the director of national intelligence. So, hugely influential job. And so they're like, okay, let's get this out right. We're going to have these confirmation battles. and she doesn't even give the actual quote. She just says, this story is about the broader context about her.
Yep.
That's why their readership is dying.
All of them. Washington Post readership is down 90%. You saw that one?
It's like, yeah, it's like 87, yeah, about 90%.
Because fact checking needs to be logical. So again, my point. If someone asked me, I'll put it this way. If I'm hanging out at dinner with like family and someone said, hey, I saw a post online that said that direct energy weapons or lasers may have started the fires, I'd say, well, I haven't seen any evidence that's convincing me that that's true. We don't know it started the fires. That's how I'd respond.
Yeah, that's fair.
But imagine someone goes, hey, I heard that lasers started the fire. And I said, that's completely false. They'd be like, oh, how do you know? Because it sounds stupid.
Right.
That's what they're saying. That's what these fact checks and debunks are.
Right. And it also gets into the epistemological question of we have all the truth.
Yep.
We have all the science. We have all the knowledge. We can know everything under the sun. And it's like, do you not even have a little bit of humility to say that, what if? What if just maybe, just this once, that there was some, I don't know, maybe not even some like giant Dr. Evil kind of like, flying satellite directed energy weapon, but what if it was some kid who was building a project in his house and it went awry? How do you know that didn't happen?
I wonder if USA Today reported on the lasers that Ukraine's using, because they're using lasers to shoot down things.
To shoot down drones.
Right?
Yeah.
So like lasers.
Or how about when
lasers
China laser scanned Hawaii? Remember that?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chinese satellites fired lasers to scan the topology of Hawaii, and there's a video.
Yeah.
You can watch the video. It's a crazy video.
Yeah. It's crazy. Also, this is taking away from Steve Baker just put out a pretty crazy article at The Blaze about directed energy weapons being used against people in the protest during 2020.
Really?
That Milley was talking about. It took him like 2 years to write this thing. It's crazy.
Whoa.
And they're like energy weapons that could make your blood feel like it's boiling.
Yeah.
Or like the Havana syndrome stuff.
It's called an active denial system.
Yeah,
crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the Havana. I will say this about Havana syndrome, and I know as wild as it sounds, like Eric Prince talked to me offline, and he's like, he's a pretty credible guy. He's in that world. He's like, I know people that there's probably some people who maybe that just be getting a little bit of mass hysteria, but there's other people who have just been in that world and have had stuff happen, and it's associated with this, and something is clearly happening to them. And
you have long-term effects, or is it like a short-term?
Long-term effects.
Stuff is scary.
Yeah, and that is, and then I had other people who reached out who are also in that world and said, because I had some tweet about it, and they were like, no, like there is actually something out there. And by the way, we have stuff too.
You ever hear the story about the guy who stuck his head in a particle accelerator?
No.
Was it Ian?
It was it might have been. So the guy was like doing maintenance on a particle accelerator, and then his head went in the path of the proton. It went right through his skull, but it's a single proton, so like he was seemingly fine, but then it caused weird issues with his brain and how he behaved and how he acted. So
it was Ian.
Imagine if you were able to fire a single particle, no one would be able to see it.
Yeah,
you wouldn't feel it.
Yeah,
but you would start having a mental breakdown. Your brain wouldn't work properly.
Gamma ray.
Yeah.
How would you detect that? How would you CSI that one?
Right.
No, you're not going to do anything.
So we need tinfoil.
But the issue that we're getting at is the mentality of the we know all science worshipers, who, like these types who say we have the ability to have all knowledge at our fingertips, and we know for a fact that this is absolutely not true. And by the way, to be fair, like I'll even be fair, because he's talking about an image, right? So yeah, okay, the image is not true in this case, but we know the mentality that we're getting at because we've all dealt with it, and we've all dealt with those people.
Let me read this for you guys. This is something for you for Sunday or something.
Tim, you got that crazy look in your eye again.
Anatoly Bogorsky, 1978. Was checking on a malfunctioning piece of equipment when the safety mechanisms failed. He was leaning over the machine when the beam hit him, passing through the back of his head, the occipital and temporal lobes of his brain, the left middle ear, and out through the left-hand side of his nose. They say that he survived, completed his PhD, but he had health problems, left side face paralysis, hearing loss in his left ear, seizures. The beam burned a line through his brain, but he didn't experience mental decline. The half of his face that was hit by the beam didn't seem to age.
What?
Which led some speculation the proton beams could prevent wrinkles. The beam was narrowly focused, which may have helped limit the damage to Bogorski's brain. Most radiation exposure affects the whole body, but in his case, the damage was concentrated to a single area.
Great. Now celebrities are going to beam their faces.
They're going to be in. Maybe they
to
already
stay
are.
young.
That's what caused the fire. See, we just figured it out. It was celebrities
crazy.
using particle accelerators to
Achieve immortality.
to achieve immortality, to stop the wrinkles. And it's not Botox.
Has anyone seen Brian Johnson?
This is the next thing. And now they're
That guy looks like, I don't like looking at that
Brian
guy.
Johnson from.
Brian Johnson.
The vampire.
the backwards aging guy.
Oh yes, right.
yeah.
I guess a lot of people hate that guy. I got no beef.
I have no beef. I'm happy for him, but it freaks me out.
I'm excited. Like,
But he is kind of creepy looking.
Transhumanism.
to be fair, like, you know, when he's like, I look younger and everything, I'm like, you don't. You just look kind of weird. But that's okay. Like, I'm not trying to be a mean. He seems like a nice guy. You know what I mean? Like,
No, he does. He does. Like, I'll give him a lot of credit because he does that. He kind of leans into it. He jokes about it, and
he looks kind of weird.
And that he'll just go back and forth and mix it up on X. And I'll give anybody respect who just does that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I personally I think he looks a little weird.
considering he's putting himself through this insane like immortality treatment, and it's affected his appearance, I think it's worth pointing out the negative element of that. But, you know, personality-wise and everything he's doing, I think is really cool. So he was posting like, why are there so many haters who hate what I'm doing? It's like he's living his life. He's doing what he wants to do. The research is going to be greatly beneficial to humanity. I'm all for it.
Just there's a lot.
Creep me
there's
out.
always
I don't
a lot
think
of
we should be
haters,
promoting
no matter what you
transhumanism.
do.
I mean, I look at what he's doing as more like medical research.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he
doesn't want to die, that seems like beyond.
but nobody like if someone's got a bad heart
Dying,
rate,
unfortunately, is part of
but if
life.
But is I think I guess the distinction would be between pure transhumanism and biohacking.
Yeah.
or medicine. Like, imagine going back in time 1,000 years and someone's like their heart's giving out and you said, I can give you a new heart. And they'd be like, this transhumanist nonsense. You can't get a new heart. No, we do it all the time.
Does he want?
Common.
He wants to be in his own body. Like I thought I've seen him say he wants to be in another body at some point.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. My point
That's
is,
where you get into the transhumanist.
if he's doing stuff where he said, the best thing you can do to fight aging is eat olive oil. And I'm like, okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's totally
That's
fine.
fair.
If he started advocating for nanite injections into your brain to cyberize, like in Ghost in the Shell, I might be like, whoa.
It's like, yeah, I'm
Oh,
out.
there, Nelly.
I'm out.
Yeah.
That's where Kurzweil.
Like Neuralink is already getting me going like, whoa. Like I'm a big fan of Elon, but Neuralink, I understand curing paralysis and things like that. It's fantastic. But I also am deeply terrified of what Neuralink will do.
The far-reaching future consequences of it are terrifying, but the short-term benefits are beautiful for paraplegics and people with seizures and who are blind. I get it. But it's a hard thing.
I take that back. I am really excited for Neuralink. I beg and I pray. Jack, do you know what happened right now? If Elon came out, did a press conference, and he said, we have successfully achieved read-write capabilities with Neuralink, and it can be implanted right now into anyone for $50. We'll do it.
You sign it up.
No, but every liberal will, and then they're going to live in the pod eating the bugs, and we don't got to worry about it anymore.
I mean, they kind of already.
Just like how all the liberals
But imagine, like, you know it, dude. Every, like, liberal dude's going to be like, I'd rather fight a dragon, and they're going to plug right in and go into Star Wars world.
I mean, that's not necessarily
fight
like the
the
liberals.
emperor.
That's the omega males. So there's
is largely liberal.
or the gamma males. You're right. These are like beyond beta, beyond delta, like way down in the food chain. They're just like they've totally pulled themselves out of the gene pool, and it's like you said, like just
largely Democrat.
You know, they do tend to be largely Democrat, but it is a separate type of thing than just a committed liberal. They are your Reddit atheist type for sure.
That's right. However, the moment that turns on, the next election cycle swings Republican 5 points.
Because they're all fighting dragons in Star Wars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be like, why do I care about your election, dude? I'm the Sith Emperor. Like
they're buying those sex robots that were at that new.
You don't need them.
CES.
You plug your brain in, and they're all going to be in this world where everyone's a 20-year-old busty woman, and they're a samurai fighting dragons. They're going to plug their brains into Wally World.
Wait, they're the busty woman fighting the dragon, or they're the...
They can go back
Some
and
of them,
forth.
yes.
Yeah, they can go back
Some of these guys, yes.
We're mixing and matching the Neuralinks.
Some of the guys will absolutely do that.
Some of it has gone wrong. If you have questions on which fantasy you'd like to in your Neuralink, send your emails to 1776@humanevents.com. That's 1776@humanevents.com.
Let's jump to the story from Bloomberg. China discusses sale of TikTok U.S. to Musk.
Wow.
Is one possible option. But wait, TikTok denies report.
Yeah.
They call the report that China is exploring sale of app to Elon Musk pure fiction. I think TikTok should be banned. I think that what was happening was TikTok was largely banning conservatives. We have no control over it, so conservatives wanted to get rid of it. So TikTok switched and started allowing conservatives, and then all of a sudden Trump's like, we did really well, so we're going to keep it now. And I'm like, yeah, and the moment you keep it, they're going to turn on you to get you impeached and removed from power. I don't like the deep state controlling social media, but at least there's some recourse in investigations and FOIA requests. I'm not a fan of TikTok. I think they should divest from any foreign partners.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, look,
So
I
you're
think
saying you're not a fan of TikTok as currently constituted?
Yeah, if TikTok divested, totally fine. I
well,
think
look-
they're censorious and bad, but they're allowed to operate so long as we're not at risk nationally.
if TikTok is preferential to shutting down as opposed to selling, I think that speaks to what the actual function of TikTok is. I think that it's likely an intelligence gathering op by the Chinese, by the CCP, more than anything else. And so I honestly, like, normally I'm just like, let companies exist, but I do think that there's a national security issue because of the fact that it's not just about who has it, or if someone in a position of authority has it, but their family. If you're you work for Boeing or you work for Lockheed Martin and your kid has TikTok, they could be accessing your kid's information and stuff. People aren't. I think the average person isn't aware of how much information you can glean with an app that has access to the entirety of a cell phone that's in someone's home like that.
But I guess devil's advocate on that is, couldn't you say the same thing about U.S. apps and the U.S. national security agencies?
I agree.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the fact of the matter is U.S. apps are the Chinese using them for espionage against the United States is not the same thing. Not that the U.S.
No. I'm not saying they're not. What I'm saying is, though, couldn't you also apply that to
Yes.
U.S. intel agencies conducting espionage against our own citizens?
Yes, but the United States isn't going to outlaw apps when they're using them. Like this is if you're talking.
No, of course not.
If you're talking,
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
talking about like China versus the U.S., I think that the government shouldn't be doing that either. But the question isn't will the government stop or how do we get the government to stop? The question is TikTok an espionage tool for a foreign entity? And I think it is. So, and yeah, I mean, look, if I could go ahead and wave a magic wand and make sure that the government doesn't use any apps to track people and stuff like that, I'd do it in a second. But I don't have that power.
I don't know. I just think it's more complicated. I mean, even if they sell it to some American, it's like, well, what happens if that American just so happens to be, a guy who's here based on, birthright citizenship and his parents are Chinese?
Yep, there's still espionage laws.
And so, yeah, there's still espionage laws for sure. But again, espionage is a very
This
specific.
is just
but
the
it's
argument of the
specific-
perfect being the enemy of the good.
Yes, but at least we have FOIA requests and we have some recourse via lawsuits in the United States.
No. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done. I guess I'm just saying that if we think that, they've divested and the problem's gone away and, you can just go and use your phone to your heart's content again. No, that's not a thing. So anytime, John McAfee used to talk about this, privacy does not exist. If you are using one of these things, you think, I'm encrypted, I'm good. No, they are looking over your shoulder.
100%.
They can pull whatever they want. And yeah, maybe it's harder for the CCP to get in, but that doesn't mean that, that the agency and the feds can't get in whenever they want. Just, you don't believe me? Go ask any Gen 6 or anyone who served in the Trump administration that actually supported the agenda.
The debate here isn't the American government always good? Because the American government is not always good. That's not even that's not the question at hand. The question at hand is: should the American government allow a foreign country to operate what is likely a spy tool in America without any kind of should they allow it to operate? That's the question.
Have you heard the conspiracy theory on this? So the conspiracy theory on this was that who's had the most dominant TikTok trends over the last 6 months? Politically speaking, it's all been Donald Trump related, right? So the YMCA Trump dance, or obviously the Trump hat, or the eating the cats, eating the dogs became the number one song. So the conspiracy theory is that TikTok realized that through their algorithms that Trump was going to win, so they switched themselves to look like they were pro-Trump, so that they would be able to get the influence to say, no, don't ban us now.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
We're pro you.
And the moment Trump backs off, they go, crush him, don't let him win ever again.
Well, I mean, not even if it doesn't even matter if that's the goal to crush Trump. The fact of the matter is they want to continue. If you take the idea that TikTok is an espionage tool, all they want is to keep operating in the U.S. That's the goal. So if they have Donald Trump that has a positive opinion of them, then maybe they have a better chance of continuing to operate TikTok in the United States.
Sure, but
it doesn't matter if they like Trump or not. I don't even think they care. I don't think they matter. They care. I don't think it matters who it is. It's a matter of who's going to allow them to continue to operate, so they can continue to have this tool in the U.S.
So you're saying total ban?
I mean, I think if they divest and an American company takes over and they don't have the servers are no longer run by ByteDance, the servers are in the U.S., I don't really have a problem with it.
But yeah, I mean, but I guess what I'm saying is you could easily construct, not easily, but you could construct a more perhaps classical espionage structure with shell corporations.
Yeah, but Jack, you know the vast majority.
Like they could get they could still get
yeah, but the point that I'm making, well, first of all, it doesn't have the psychological effect if they just have hardware, right? So everybody knows, or everybody is generally of the opinion that most of the hardware that comes from China has some kind of backdoor that the CCP could access if they wanted to.
Like literally all of our hardware.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
like
that's
if they cared
not
so much. Why do we still buy all their drones?
That's not because we can't make drones in the U.S. because the government's stupid.
Ridiculous.
Because the FAA is stupid.
Wait, no, so now you're getting to what I was talking about. Is that it's basically, and I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. What I'm saying is that this is a much more complex problem than just like, we signed it over to Elon Musk and we're good to go. Like,
no, the point that I'm making is TikTok can operate as a psychological tool. Your computer hardware that they can get into, it's not the same thing. They're not going to be adjusting the algorithm to mess with people's head when they can just track your keystrokes.
You know that's what they said about the Romania election, right? So that's why. So Romania had their presidential election a couple of months ago, and this just out of right field candidate won, who was super anti-NATO, anti-EU, and they came in and said, Russia manipulated TikTok so much that he was able to swung the election, and they did so through an influence operation, like you're saying. So the Supreme Court of Romania came in and annulled the election and took away actual people voted in Romania for this guy. Wow. And they came in and they went for it, and they said, so this is where, I mean, this is kind of like an almost more of a larger social question is, well, okay, wait a minute. So just because they had this influence, people still voted, and that the Supreme Court annulled the election based on TikTok.
DARPA had a program, I think in 2011, about how they could influence people through social media influencers, because they could see people like they were drones, So like all these apps are working against you.
Yes.
All of them.
Yes.
Our government is an enemy, in my opinion, a foreign enemy, and they've taken over, and they're completely infiltrated all the social media. And I wonder how many influencers have marched out of DARPA, for both sides of the party.
Influencers?
Oh, for sure. I think there's a ton of people who are totally just propped up, like Mockingbird style,
and they wouldn't know.
They've been doing Mockingbird for decades.
Yeah, you wouldn't know, right?
You wouldn't know.
So
you wouldn't know at all.
It's actually real simple. I don't know if you guys know this, but we ran an ad on Sam Cedars' channel making fun of him, so that people who watched Majority Report would see us. It was like, what was it, me, Seamus, and you, Phil? Yep. And we were like, so this is what we did. We made a video where
he called me a political hitman once.
Oh, that's
not bad.
Not bad, right? That's not bad.
So the video started with me saying something like, "No, actually, wait a minute. You're not going to watch this guy's video, are you? Nah, you don't want to watch him. Come watch us instead." And it was like, I was like, we don't want to be mean or disparaging. It's more meant to be like a prank and funny, and he's getting money for it.
Right.
And so I had that commercial run on his channel, but what that means, it means I paid him.
So you paid him, yeah.
That's right. You can go on YouTube, on Google Ads, and pay any creator to run ads on their content. You can choose their channel, and you can say, I want this amount of money and this amount of ads to appear on this channel. So as it goes, one way to launder and prop up a personality who's not good is to make sure their ad inventory is 100% sold. You're not making them big. You're making sure that if they get views, they get the maximum amount of money for those views. It's a way to pay people who have a message you like. So if you're a foreign government or even the U.S. government, the U.S. government can buy ads like liminally, subliminally, and superliminally.
Hey, you!
That's right. Join the Navy. They can, all the Simpsons references. The Navy can literally run ads on your channel. And the government be like, what's our ad budget? Buy ads on that channel. Or they can run a shell corporation through intelligence that runs ads on your channel. And then you're sitting there being like, dude, I make tons of money on YouTube. And that makes sure you can survive, expand, and grow. And here's the best part. You can target videos. So they can make sure that certain videos generate more money than other videos. Then what happens? YouTube creator makes a video about Israel, makes a bunch of money. They say, oh, wow, when I do videos on Israel, I make a lot of money. You can easily control what people are going to talk about based on view counts, likes, and their revenue streams. So there are probably a lot of personalities who are propped up and they don't even know it.
I can give you an example off the top of my head because I looked this up. Do you remember like a couple of years ago, I guess, I was talking about this phenomenon of the hick lib, and it was it was like this sort of Kevin Costner and Yellowstoning, which by the way, totally vindicated on with the final episode where they tore down Yellowstone Ranch,
gave it to the Native Americans,
and they're kicking over the graves, and everything. They're like, no, put it back up. They're like, I'm gonna kick it down anyway, elder, and. So I was talking about this thing called the hick lib phenomenon, where it was like someone who has sort of the aesthetics, if you will, of a sort of Midwestern conservative type guy, but then has these like very liberal, extreme social justice reactions. And so I was digging into this in 2023, and I had this guy. It was called Bo of the Fifth Column. He, him. And so he does this like gun channel, and kind of one of the, I guess I call them gun tubers, and it was like, okay, he's got the beard, he's got the hat, like he kind of looks like, he sort of just looks like the kind of guy who would, who you'd watch one of these channels, and that would be it. And then every once in a while he would throw something in there about like trans acceptance or like, just name your, SJW type topic, and it would go through in. But then here's where it got, took a darker turn, because the Los Angeles Times actually reported on this, and I saved the article. It said, after the January 6th Capitol insurrection,
good grief,
tech companies began experimenting with and came under increasing pressure from the U.S. government to prevent the spread of extremism on their platforms. So an internet figure named Bo of the Fifth Column became one of the beneficiaries of this, because listen to this. The idea was bait and switch. The LA Times. Give people searching online for terms like join the Oath Keepers or, quote, bomb instructions, some content that seemed to fit their request, but instead offered an alternative. The method, developed by what's called Moonshot CVE, is called the redirect. Through partnerships with Google, as well as the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, the British firm's goal was to dissuade users from pursuing conspiracies and violent rhetoric by luring them with advertisements to other sites. And so I'm like, okay, the ADL was involved in this, as well as something called Moonshot CVE. I'm like, what's a British firm? So I'm like, let me go look up this Moonshot CVE and figure out what that is. And so they're astroturfing this hick lib identity. And what's interesting about the British government is that they actually have pretty good records on who they give their funding to. And they're nonprofits, basically, because they'll have to be registered. So it's like, okay, here's Moonshot CVE, Countering Violent Extremism, moonshotteam.com, London, United Kingdom. And this is the best part, because wait a minute, where did the money come from? Yes, it's a British firm, but the money came from the United States State Department.
Wow.
$3.6 million. And this was just the one donation that we've got, like the sub-grant and all of it. So wait a minute. In the LA Times, they referred to it as a British firm, but it was a British firm funded by the U.S. State Department to go through into Google and say, oh, we're fighting hate by propping up this guy, which directly sends you to his... And by the way...
Welcome to the Five Eyes Spy Club.
He may not have known at all. He might have no idea. And by the way, there's like actually a bunch of other stuff, because apparently the guy was like a convicted felon and had been involved in like human trafficking and a bunch of other stuff, which is like really messed up. And clearly, And that they didn't realize that either. So that was one of the reasons that the LA Times was reporting on it. But what they uncovered was this massive web of your money that was being spread around, just like what you're talking about, Tim, and just like what you're talking about, that props up certain people on YouTube or other functions. And Google says, hey, we're just fighting hate. We're fighting extremism. And yet you're propping up certain content like the Hitler.
I think it's only going to get worse.
And it's only going to
moving
get worse.
Forward. Yeah. It's going to get way worse. And people are going to it's like they're luring people into invisible like re-education camps. They don't even know they're
you don't even know.
This.
Right. So that's the thing. They won't even need to send us to re-education camps because you'll go to YouTube and you'll just look up something like how to, reconstruct an AR lower, and they'll send you to one of these things, and then the guy just every once in a while mentions something liberal, mentions something social justice, mentions something, oh, and you got to believe in evolution, and it just and
I think
go back to
they're going to try really hard to subvert the subverters.
Exactly.
Right? Like they know the podcast world is now ruling, right? Like Trump used podcasts.
Yes.
And the mainstream
podcast will be the next target.
That's their target. And it's probably been like that for years, but it's going to get way worse now because they realize that's where the audience is. So they're going to sprinkle in their narratives to try to pacify dissident voices.
Well, you're already seeing that a little bit with the woke light phenomenon. That these guys who pop up, and it's typically these former liberals, and I don't feel like naming names.
Current liberals.
And right. They're always like, I'm a former liberal, but a classic liberal. And they come over and they say, I'm against trans, but like that's about it. And like I'm with them on every single other thing. And then they immediately start gatekeeping the right and gatekeeping dissidents and gatekeeping populists and say, you can't believe that. You can't talk about that issue. You can't do that. And that's why I call them the woke light.
And the exact same way the woke do it.
The exact same.
So that's why I describe wokeness as the cult-like adherence to the liberal orthodoxy.
Yes.
What the woke light are doing, these are disaffected liberals that are still liberal, and they're saying, those liberals are bad. We're the true liberals. Be like us. And if you're not, you're the woke right. And the woke right phenomena is basically the same as calling someone alt-right. It's a meaningless term that basically says you are our enemy. So it's funny when these guys are like the woke right. I'm like, you are the woke right.
You're acting woke. You're woke light.
But I call them woke right because they're the right side of the left side.
So I started.
So they're still on the left.
So I started.
But I like what you're saying.
I was doing the same thing at first, but then the waters were too muddied because people were like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" I couldn't figure this out. So just explain it. Woke light, LIT. Also, if you prefer, diet woke. It's
pretty good.
Credit to Malcolm Flex for that one.
Diet woke. That's
diet
a good one.
woke. But
these guys are like, the woke are crazy, and we are the true liberals. You should be like us.
Hello, fellow kids.
And then they say, like, we had on the members only show, we got into this because I was like, someone asked James Lindsay what is an example of the woke right, and he said Orrin McIntyre, and I was like, what? How he's like a post-liberal? I don't know. I don't know his exact political positions, but it's like America first, immigration critical. What does it have to do with the people who hate Jews? When he starts lumping in this, like, the people who believe the Jews control everything with people who like Christianity and believe in nationalism and Tucker Carlson, I'm like, you're basically just saying anybody who's on the right is woke right. That sounds like you're saying alt-right. It's just a meaningless term. If you're not adhering to their standard, you're woke right.
But what it is in direct fashion is what they're doing is creating a category, creating a label, saying we're separate from these guys, therefore you, and a lot of these guys, I remember like they were, one of the big pieces of this you saw was also when Tucker went to interview Putin, and then he also interviewed Lavrov, now, which by the way, at great personal risk to himself. Like there were a number of security incidents that took place when he did this. And, Ukraine's got assassination teams all over Russia, by the way. And of course, Tucker Carlson would be a main target and certainly was targeted. And so the idea that, he was just doing it for like clicks or something, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. He's doing his job. But they were saying, oh, look at him, he's woke right for just accepting what Putin says. And it's like, for interviewing him, like it's so ridiculous. And the real thing that I got to say, and people are going after like Benny Johnson for platforming. You can't platform. I'm sorry.
How dare you talk to Andrew Tate?
Those are woke style attacks. Those are woke style arguments. You are acting like the woke light. By the way, and if you want to criticize something that someone said or something that someone did, then just do that. Then just do that. But be a man and actually have the ability to hold that debate and hold that criticism, because that's the problem of what caused all of these issues. That's how you get to the LA wildfires burning down, and nobody can actually find out whose job it was to keep water in the reservoir during fire season, because you keep setting up all these little rules that everybody has to follow, that they're gate kept, or no, you're not allowed to think those thoughts. No, just go ahead and have it all out and criticize people and argue and debate. And guess what? The best ideas, the most pragmatic ideas, the most truthful ideas will eventually win. They really will. They absolutely will. But if you're going to sit there and start gatekeeping and saying you can't have that idea, or you can't write that book, or how dare you use that title, or how dare you look at that historical event and ask questions about it, it's ridiculous, it's insane, and it's a form of wokeness. I'm just going to call it out.
Becoming the enemy.
Becoming
the thing they hated.
We are going to go to Super Chat. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with everyone you know, and become a member at timcast.com to support our work directly. And you will get access to our Discord server where you can hang out with tons of people and call into the show. So if you ever wanted to talk to Jack Posobiec, you got to be a member at timcast.com, because he is here and he's excited.
I'm really excited. I'm so excited right now.
There we go. Let's get it. All right, here we got Robert De La Cruz. He says, I get to be first. Indeed you do, sir. Congratulations. Chrome Gear Versus says, I live here in LA. I want CA to turn red, but not like this. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yikes. Yikes.
Surprisingly, this may turn it red.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I wonder if the celebrities that are going after their politicians right now are going to stay that way. If they're going to say, we're going to start voting differently, or if they're just going to get fixed.
Well,
I think you could have
it for some people.
I think you could have it. By the way, why doesn't Elon Musk run for governor of California?
He's in Texas now, isn't he?
He's right back. Whatever the residency requirements are, figure out a way to get it there. Run. Go back and run, and he would win. He would easily run as an independent. He would win.
I want him to run Mars.
Yeah, I don't know if he I don't think Elon's the kind of guy who wants to be in government. You get paid way less.
He's in government already.
Seems like he likes being
but he's in a good. He's outside in orbit with that influence.
Okay, then he puts together a team. Focus on California the way that he focused on America. Put together, and maybe it's Schellenberger, maybe it's Nicole Shanahan, maybe
Elder.
What was the guy?
Help him get Elder.
Ari Elder, Rick Caruso, whoever it is, right? Put together that dream team again. But here's the thing: you have to actually stay in California. You can't just keep jumping.
Mel Gibson
from place to place.
Mel
Gibson, based Mel.
Mel's the best. I would love to get him on the show. The Patriot is the greatest movie ever made.
That's right.
And I would love to hang out with that.
It's actually Braveheart, but.
Braveheart's good too.
Same guy.
But he's got great movies.
Yeah, Apocalypto.
Yeah, and he made The Passion, didn't he?
Yep.
Worse.
Yep. He's made a bunch.
Beautiful.
He's making the second one, The Resurrection of the Christ. Just incredible. Shout out to
The Patriot is so good.
Everything that he said on Joe Rogan was 100% correct. Everything.
All right, Tyler Today News says, hey, Tim, I always love watching the show. Could you shout out my channel? I just did an interview with a J6er that was shot unjustly by Capitol Police named Joshua Matthew Black. He'd be a good guest. Interesting. Tyler Today News. Good luck, sir. Let's go. Salty Bag of Nuts says, Ian informed my 7-year-old daughter that Santa wasn't real last Thursday. We no longer like Ian.
You can't trust Ian. What are you going to trust Ian over Santa Claus?
I know, seriously.
Santa deniers will be put into the crystals.
Santa deniers.
Santa deniers are in shambles, because guess what, boys and girls? When we woke up on Christmas morning, guess what was under our tree? Presents from Santa. And it's right there.
Tell me if this is true or not, Jack.
What's up?
Adam says, sup, Tim, I just learned over the weekend the Golden Globes mocked God. The next night, Hollywood went in flames.
It's true. I saw that video.
It's true?
She put up a graph of how many people who thanked who, and God was like, had no thank yous.
Wow.
I mean, it wouldn't exactly be the first time that Hollywood mocked God.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
But that's more overt You know what I mean? It's like, it's one thing to be passively disrespectful. It's another thing to just scream it out. The George Floyd mural that exploded, dude, so here's my question for you, Jack. Are miracles things that when you look at it and you say that's an impossibility, it must be a miracle? Or are they things that seemingly are astronomically impossible that happen? Like, let me put it like this.
Give me an example.
Is a miracle...
So like Butler, PA.
So Butler, PA, Donald Trump tilting his head is a possible thing that can happen. The George Floyd mural exploding is a thing that could happen. But holy crap, the odds must be beyond astronomical.
Yes.
So my question is that what defines a miracle? Or are miracles things where it's like a sandwich appears out of thin air? See, something absolutely impossible to happen happens.
So, yeah, I mean, yes, in general, the idea typically, so there's the idea of the miraculous, like Donald Trump being saved, I believe is a miracle. I think a lot of people believe is a miracle.
He turns his head just
that's why we,
millimeter.
And that's why we put that picture on the cover of him where it looks like he's in prayer for the book Bulletproof. Where if you'd like a link to, send me an email, 1776@humanevents.com. Audiobook is now out. Huge debate over whether or not audiobooks are real books is raging. So check it out. The word brickers are in shambles, by the way. Carrying around their word bricks. And I was, of course, pointed out that oral tradition vastly predates books. And so... But typically, when it comes to the canonization of a saint, what you're looking for is a healing. What you're looking for is some miraculous change. There's the miracle of the sun in Fatima. So this, the appearance of Fatima on October 13th in Fatima, Portugal, was the sun actually, it's claimed, danced in the sky. So in that case, it wouldn't necessarily be something. So yes, I guess it would be both.
It could be both.
It could be both. So something that is possible, just astronomically unlikely, as well as something that is in fact impossible. Like, for example, a man raising himself from the dead and walking around and being seen by thousands after he'd been murdered in public.
I think that one still falls under the astronomically unlikely but possible. The resurrection.
We still had to live in a tomb for 3 days.
Yeah.
Somehow.
What I'm saying is that, like...
If you're saying if he was injured.
Not necessarily injured, but I just mean, like, what I would define as impossible is, like, a sandwich appearing out of thin air. You know what I mean? Like, it defies logic. It doesn't exist. It's not
you can't really be dead and come back to life.
You can.
It's pretty impossible.
I would say that a corporeal body dying and coming back to life happens, and over 3 days is astronomically impossible, that no one would expect to ever happen. But that's why I would still describe that as a miracle. I don't think that defies the laws of logic in the universe, is what I mean to say. That's kind of the...
It does.
I disagree.
What other things can die and come back to life?
Humans die and come back to life all the time through medical technology.
But it's not just that he died and came back to life. But he was like,
but my
torture of the crucifixion.
Yeah, this wasn't just like brain dead.
But that's why I'm saying I view that as a miracle.
And he got CPR.
Right. What I'm saying is the
also there was
it is within the it was I guess what I'm trying to say is it is within the realm of physical existence that a body comes back to life, as opposed to like a tree turned into a fish. You know what I mean? Like something that makes no sense within existence.
I don't know if I agree, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because I forgot what we were talking about before. Oh yeah, the mocking God.
Yeah.
Like a fire starting is right after they mock God is like extremely unlikely.
God's wrath.
But fires happen and people mock God. The question is...
And they happen in that area.
Right.
And by the way, devil's advocate, I mean, Tornado Alley exists, and that's not exactly a haven of God mockers in the Midwest.
My view, just to simplify everything, is that God smites.
He does.
I do believe it.
Oh, he does.
The George Floyd mural exploding, unless someone intentionally did that and tricked us, the presumption of the story as reported being true, that a brick wall, double-layered brick with a George Floyd mural wearing a crown, exploded outwards. I mean, it's possible those things happen.
By the way,
I'm just saying.
The same George Floyd who, when he was brought to the hospital, was still alive because Derek Chauvin didn't kill him.
Derek Chauvin should be freed, and he did nothing wrong.
They said that
Just to clarify, Derek Chauvin was abiding by the training given to him by the MPD.
100%.
He arrived after Floyd was already taken out of the vehicle. He was unaware of the circumstances and was just doing as the department instructed. Now, I don't believe just following orders is an excuse, but in this instance, we're not talking about a cop mercilessly beating a child. We're talking about a cop who shows up and sees a very large man resisting arrest and saying,
did he commit murder?
And what?
But the question is, did he commit murder?
No, he did not.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm not even making the argument that, he has to be a police officer after this. That's fine. But the idea that, and by the way, so Katie Blackwell, who at the time was Inspector Katie Blackwell, when she testified as the training unit officer, and the great Liz Collin over at Alpha News put this out, she testified that she didn't recognize the restraint that Derek Chauvin used.
And then there was pictures of her.
And then they found the pictures. Yeah. So that's why for 2025, I am no longer a conservative. I am now a Derek Chauvinist. And it was a political sacrifice that was made to the gods of the SJWs, the gods of communism, of this man who was taken. And to your point, he was following the training that was given by the officer who testified against him, who now has dozens of officers coming out saying that she lied under oath to put him in jail.
Before we went live, you were talking about the 10 Commandments. They turned Floyd into a false idol.
And then the mural exploded.
Right. Exploded.
Let me read this. Gandalf the Bay says, Tim, with respect, but if you believe in the Big Bang, then Christ rising from the dead is child's play. I completely agree with that. And that's kind of my point. That there are things that seemingly defy all astronomical odds, and it is more believable to me, the resurrection of the Christ, than a lot that people claim, I guess. I agree with that assessment.
Yeah, the something to nothing argument is astounding. That, I mean, Mel Gibson got into a lot of this with Rogan, but there's so much more.
The evolution stuff is fascinating.
How does non-corporeal matter form a single cell? Where does a single cell come from? From nothing.
We only have. So I watched this documentary about the formation of life, and the hard academic answer is we don't know. No. It doesn't mean we won't know, but they say at some point, certain chemicals formed self-replicating proteins. At some point, those became cells. And it's like, okay, what's the mechanism for it, how and why? Right. They don't know. Yeah. But that is not to say that I disagree with evolution. I certainly think evolution could be the mechanism by which God creates man. And it's like understanding the process by which God created man does not take away the fact that God created man. That being said...
Pope John Paul II said that, by the way.
He did say that?
Yeah.
The issue with creationism is that many of these liberal secular individuals and atheists can understand the concept of simulism, the idea that the universe was created with a backstory, but then they don't understand what Christians are saying with creation. It's like...
Right, so like you'll believe in simulation theory, and you're like, "Oh, that's so cool! Yeah, the odds are totally in favor of that." And then I'll come along and say, "Yeah, you know who else said that? St. Paul."
No, you're wrong. It's a religion.
No, that's religion. No, but he said the same thing. Like it's the idea that if you see a watch, the existence of the watch therefore pretends that there would be a watchmaker because it is so intricately designed.
I would argue it to atheists who don't believe in creation. When you play Grand Theft Auto and you have a little guy running through the city, jumping on a motorcycle and driving around, you know nobody built those skyscrapers. They were hard-coded.
They're simulated.
But in the game, there's a story as to how the buildings were created and what the city is all about. It's a story. It's all fake. There was a creator who made that. If you believe simulation theory is possible, if you believe, as Elon Musk and many of these people do, that given the fact that we create simulations, the odds are a advanced civilization would create a simulation like ours. Therefore, it is more likely we're in a simulation. You're literally just saying you believe in creation. You're just removing God from the picture and putting some guy there.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard by the way, though, I thought it was interesting because Rogan and Gibson got into this whole idea of, the different hominins that had existed in the past, and we've got certain bones here, certain bones there, and a lot of evolutionists want to try to form this linear picture and say, well, this was the first one because this is the oldest one we found, so this one came first, and this one led to this one, led to this one, led to this one. But have you heard the Middle Earth theory?
What's that?
What?
Yeah, the Middle Earth theory. So the Middle Earth theory, this is sort of a new way to look at all of these different things and all of these disparate pockets of different hominins, like the Denisovans that were found in Siberia, people know the Neanderthals in Europe, but then even various archaic species and their DNA, which have been found in Africa, that they haven't even found the bones of yet. Well, so the idea is that what if instead of a linear pattern, the way that evolutionists are trying to say, what if all of these various groups of hominins existed all at the same time, and then Cro-Magnons also existed? And what ended up happening was, instead of this linear progression, it was just this sort of Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth kind of world where all of these were existing in concert with one another. And then what instead happened was this various hybridization and interbreeding of the species. And that's why you'll see that. So, Europeans and Asians have a certain less than 2% of Neanderthal DNA, but sub-Saharan Africans do not. And people will say, well, oh, that's because, they came out of Africa. And it's like, or perhaps not. Perhaps there were various separate
Atlantis
things that all existed. This does actually line up with the Atlantis theory very well. And so Robert Sepper talks about this and kind of gets into like the Graham Hancock stuff.
I heard someone, I don't remember where it was that I heard yesterday, but someone was talking about like 15,000 years ago, the sea level was 400 feet below where it is today.
Yeah. So parts of Egypt that are now underwater. And so some people believe that there was an island in the Atlantic where Atlantis may have been.
Well, so this Rogan and Gibson mentioned this in like the first couple of minutes, where he says when you go to the ancient Mayans and you ask them, how did you learn how to do all these things? They don't tell you like, oh, we had some great teacher and these inventors, they figured it out. They say, no, they have these oral traditions, by the way, oral traditions, take that word, brickers, oral traditions that, no, there were these tall men from over the sea with red beards who taught us how to build these structures and taught us how to farm.
Green and blue skin.
Conduct agriculture. And then one day they went away, and then we never saw them again until the arrival of Cortez. Obviously that was more further north, but you get my point, that they're saying that there was a race of people who could travel on the sea that taught us these things.
Yep. All right, we got to read this one from Mikey Maui. He says, Tim, my sis-in-law, mother of 5 with a newborn, suffered a stroke and aneurysm. Damn. 1 month medical coma and brain damage. Therapy is very expensive. Can we get a shout out to her GoFundMe? I realize you don't like GoFundMe. Anyways, her name is Morgan Henteman. Jack, we are big Catholics. Can you please pray a rosary?
We'll do that.
Sorry to hear, brother. I hope it works out. I wish you the best.
Right here.
Yeah. Right on. Do we still have the... I think the one we had over there fell off. We had it on the Bocas board.
Yeah.
Let's go. Andrew says, I have a friend who wanted to be a fireman, but he couldn't pass the fireman's carry. He hit the gym for 2 years till he could. He's been a fireman paramedic for 15 years now. Wow, that's epic.
Awesome.
Yep. Because sometimes people get caught in fires and it's not their fault.
He should have just been a minority, sexual, whatever, female.
Could have put on blackface.
Identified, blackface, and then he'd been fine. You don't need to pass the fireman's carry to be a fireman anymore. There's so many easier ways to do it. Yikes. By the way, we can't call it the fireman's carry anymore, can we? Fire person's carry, firefighters carry. That's one of those ones people. we haven't fire people's carry. Yeah, we haven't figured that one.
How
out.
have they not changed Burning Man yet?
Oh my goodness.
Burning person?
Burning persons.
Yeah, burning them.
Burning persons.
Sounds like a threat.
The truth, he says, my friends in Cal Fire and Friends that work for Nevada Division of Forestry told me that aid from other states was stopped by Fuhrer News Scum and CARB because the equipment was not CARB compliant.
I heard that story.
Wow. That's crazy. Pat Meadows says, hempcrete is basically fireproof. Start investing. What is that, like concrete made from hemp? I don't know what that is.
I don't know. There have been a couple stories, though, that I've heard of people who live in the area. James Woods' house, by the way, apparently was not destroyed, and other folks
was a
who
weird story.
Well, I guess there were a lot of constructors. There were construction out there where they really took fire prevention into account when they built it, including some of like the walls or even the vegetation that was around, or like different types of bamboo that wouldn't burn. And a lot of those houses did pretty well. Wow, seems like.
Let's go. Gino S says they literally call themselves crooked media. We are effing living in a simulation. Yeah, isn't that weird?
Look, it's what it comes down to.
What is that?
Why that name?
It's these luxury beliefs, man. It's just you have these luxury beliefs like, oh, diversity is so wonderful, and equity and inclusion, and everyone's going to be equal and kumbaya, and we can all be the same. And it's like, at some point, the rubber has to meet the road, and the airplane has to stay in the sky, and the water has to be in the fire hydrant. The fire's coming, and someone needs to stop that. And if you don't have that person, guess what? You know, those beliefs will not save you.
You see that meme where he's like, call me old-fashioned, but back in my day, we put water in the fire hydrants. Yeah, that was a good one.
By the way, for all my Philly peeps out there, it is, of course, properly pronounced wooder.
Jake Fulkerson says, hello, Tim, fellow cancel Newsom Californian here. I grew up in the foothills of Central California in, how do you pronounce that, Tuolumne? Tuolumne? I don't know. County. Over 285,000 acres of our pristine forest was wiped out by the Rim Fire in 2013. Same-ish, different stain. Brutal. Jason Hutchinson says solar arrays that can turn water into steam for generators exist. Is that not directed energy?
But a mirror that you put against the sun is directed energy, sure.
Yeah. So you can take a couple mirrors and then focus light and it starts fires. Or a magnifying glass. Or a bottle of water. That's crazy. You ever see someone take like a bag of water and they hold it in the sun to make a fire? That's crazy stuff. Science. It is fun. Devlin Foster says, I don't know which congressman you have most access to, but can you please tell them to remove the gun-free zones at our military bases? Our 2A rights do not end because of where someone works.
Again, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, get him in there, folks.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth needs to be confirmed. Tomorrow is his hearing. Send him your energy. Send him your power. Send him your prayers. And go. If you have a Republican senator, make sure your senator hears. Vote yes on Pete Hegseth.
Well, Jack, I'm just here a small town, humble podcaster. But what does Pete Hegseth do for me?
Pete Hegseth will take away the gun-free zones on bases. And he's going to name all the bases back to their original names.
Nobody calls Bragg Liberty.
Yeah,
it's
Fort
still Bragg. Everybody
Fort
calls
Hood,
it Bragg.
Fort AP Hill.
I don't even know what Liberty is.
Yeah, even when
That's Fort Bragg.
there was attacks
I know,
at the
but
beginning
Bragg
of
is
the year,
Bragg.
and those guys were both from Fort Bragg at some point. No one reported on it as Liberty.
Yeah, everyone kept saying Fort Bragg because we don't know what Fort Liberty is. No, it was a complete
Nobody knows
joke.
what Gukjavik is.
Yeah, it's part of taking and I love the fact, by the way, that it's like these. There was another Wall Street Journal headline a couple weeks ago that I've been laughing at because it's such a badge of honor. It says President Trump keeps nominating angry war on terror veterans to his nomination, and it was like Tulsi, JD Vance, and Pete Hegseth, and I was like, that's just perfect.
Yeah.
The people who got sent to war for a lie, the people who had their lives on the line, again, for a lie, people who are in combat, people who are shot at, people who are shelled over all of this nonsense. You know what? I think those should be the people in charge of the government when it comes down to it.
I love it. Especially the fact that they're on the younger side of things.
Yeah.
They're adults, leaders, and it almost feels surreal that Trump has put together this coalition. I wish it was his first, I wish he did this in his first term, but hey.
It's not something he campaigned on either, by the way. It was not, he campaigned on in general on change, but by the way, this is the opposite of the Mark Zuckerberg thing, right?
Yeah.
So Mark Zuckerberg says, oh, I've changed. Look at me. I've got a fro now. You can trust me. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sad. Joe Biden was mean to me on the phone. Oh no. Like, really, dude? You're a billionaire. Like, just tell him no. And meanwhile, Trump is up there like, yeah, I'm going to nominate like all of the most based people possible for these positions. Kash Patel, who, by the way, has the resume up and down to be an FBI director. Russ Vought over at OMB, a guy who understands the budget inside and out. And that's the actual money.
That position right there doesn't get nearly enough attention from the average person. The OMB can do serious serious things about where the money goes and what things are funded and what aren't.
Yeah, like if you want Doge to actually have
Yes,
teeth, it
exactly.
runs through OMB.
Absolutely.
That's the dirty little secret.
All right. Oren says, don't forget the time that comedian Heather McDonald mocked Jesus and immediately fainted on stage. Just ordered the 28th Amendment board. Going to make it part of my remote business meetings backdrop. Epic.
So good.
The 28th Amendment. The interpretation is that people have a right to secure and grow their own food. But chickens are also awesome, so, you know. But that is, I'm telling you, man, like, here's a question. Are there instances, you know, Bill Maher had this bit where he said, you know, someone once prayed for rain and then he reached outside his cup and it rained. And he says, it's a miracle, God exists. And Bill Maher says, I would respond with, sometimes it rains. And it's like, in that story, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know. But there's something different about the mural of George Floyd exploding. You know, like that just defies logic. I'm more inclined to believe that someone secretly showed up and blew it up than the story they've put out.
Jordan never caught the guy who did the Georgia Guidestones.
But there's a video of it, isn't there?
There's a video of like the car sort of driving.
There is.
Yeah.
Like
but it's weird.
But
it's
you
weird.
can't see much.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
So terrible. So
I think that happened the same
Yeah,
thing.
so like people have told me that because I don't follow organized religion. I do believe in God, and so people say, "Oh, you must be a deist." And then at first I was like, "Oh, okay, sure, I guess." Then I looked into it. Deists believe that God does not it does not intervene in any way or interact with existence, and I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. Like I certainly think God does.
It's like the absent God theory. So God creates the world and then just walks away.
Which makes no sense to me. And
Why? For what purpose?
yeah. And then if purpose exists and is a component of this universe, like I look at the scaling of how, you know, math and science and everything, we can see the scaling of organization and purpose, consciousness, and these things exist, which means they exist in the greater essence, which means there's greater purpose, there's greater existence. And that's likely and logical.
You know what a good one for that is also is DNA. Why does DNA have a code? Why is there a computer code inside of living things? Like, where have you ever seen a random code just generate in the universe by itself?
Well, as far as we know, it's life. But my friends, we're going to go to the members only show. So smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. We got a fun story for you, not so family friendly. It's about a woman who engaged in relations with 1,000 men in 12 hours. And we're going to say not nice things about her. So not for the kids. Go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, and support our work. Join the Discord, call in, talk to us on the show. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Jack, do you want to shout anything out?
Yes. Do you believe that an audiobook counts as reading a book? Yes or no? Send us your comments, your questions, your opinions, or just on audiobooks or reading in general. 1776 at humanevents.com. 1776 at humanevents.com.
Sweet. I'm Shane Cashman. I love audiobooks. And you can find me every Sunday at Inverted World Live, 6 o'clock. See you there. Phil.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. January 31st, our new record drops. It is called Anti-Fragile. You can go to YouTube and check out, YouTube and Spotify and check out 4 singles: Forever, Cold, Let You Go, No Tomorrow, and Divine. It's YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer. And don't forget, The Left Lane is for Crime.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.